Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Councilman Henwood.
Here.
Councilman Doran.
Here.
Councilman Monty.
Here.
Councilman Vidal.
Here.
Councilman Jordan. Councilman Bartolome.
Here.
In compliance with New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 of Public Law 1975, I hereby declare that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided, specifying that this special meeting will be held on this date, Wednesday, September 24th, 2014, in the municipal building located at 55 River Road, Edgewater, New Jersey, at 7 p.m. Notice of this meeting was sent to the Record and Jersey Journal on August 19, 2014, posted on both the Borough website and in the lobby of the Borough Hall. I believe that's September 19th, correct?
What I read August.
Yeah.
I stand corrected September. I don't want the summer.
Notice of this meeting was sent to the Record and Jersey Journal on September 19, 2014, posted on both the Borough website and in the lobby of the Borough Hall. Please join me in the salute to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd ask for a motion to go out of the regular order of business.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Henwood.
Yes.
Councilman Doran.
Yes.
Councilman Monty.
Yes.
Councilman Vidal.
Yes.
Councilman Bartolome.
Yes.
Motion passes.
At this time, I would ask that Tim Corriston please come up and give us an update. Special Counsel Tim Corriston,
Use this microphone.
please.
As you're aware, we're here today for the bid. Before the bid, I was going to give a little history of the litigation and the bid process, just so everybody's clear about what went on. As many of you know, at the end of March, I retained my law firm, Connell Foley, and myself as special environmental counsel because of the illegal disposal of PCB waste material at Veterans Field. At that time, we immediately began to work on 2 tracks towards getting where we are today. And I know 6 months seems like, 5 months seems like a long period of time. In the legal and environmental world, it was a very short period of time. And we worked very, very hard with the mayor and council and our consultants, First Environment, to get to this point today. By way of reference, we were retained on March 27th. Immediately within a week, we placed the DEP on notice of what had happened here, because the way the DEP works, even though they knew there had been a disposal of hazardous waste at the field, they were not taking any efforts to bring an enforcement action or investigate the matter, because the town had stepped up and indicated it would take care of it. So as a result of that, immediate action by the DEP, which continues to investigate this matter, and has issued enforcement letters to Waterside and to Waterside Construction. Additionally, in April, we interviewed various environmental consultants, and the borough retained First Environment. First Environment immediately looked at all of the materials that were available from the testing that was done by terms. They made a determination that, as well as the SIP plan submitted by terms, and they made a determination that it was inadequate and that additional testing had to be done to characterize the material to determine how much needed to be removed and what ultimately the cost would be. Also, in April, we advised Waterside that they were in default of the contract and that we were demanding that they retain an environmental remediation company to remediate the property. We had to do that contractually, and that was an obligation we had contractually to give them an opportunity to cure. But we declared them in default. We also contacted the bonding company, advised them in default, and demanded that they turn over the bond. Also met with the DEP inspectors at the site, Mr. Franz and I, to go over the site and to help them with their investigation, supply them with volumes and volumes of material that they needed for their investigation. In May, we had our first mediation session with retired Judge Mecca with Waterside. We were required by public contract law, and it's actually in the bid specs, to mediate and arbitrate this matter with Waterside. It was required by law. We could not bring a suit until we finished those processes. We were able to negotiate an agreement with Waterside that we instead, rather do a mediation and arbitration, in order to speed up the process, we would just do mediation and we would both make our best efforts, and then if it didn't work out, we would proceed. So we started negotiations with Waterside back in May. They were very long and very difficult negotiations, which I can't comment on completely because it's confidential when you have the mediation, and also obviously we're in litigation with them presently. While in mediation, we met with the EPA, and we got the EPA involved in enforcement action. The EPA came again, they visited the site independently, so we have the DEP and the EPA both conducting investigations. Also, at the request of the EPA, we withdrew the SIP plan which was submitted by terms. The EPA representative informed me that she was not going to accept the plan, and also based upon the advice of our consultant, again, it was not extensive enough, there had not been enough testing to characterize what exactly was going on in the field and where was the material. So at the request of the EPA, we rescinded the SIP without prejudice and advised them that once we did our additional testing, we would introduce a new SIP. Then also, we continued our negotiations with with Waterside, and unfortunately, again, did not really, making very slow progress, but sticking to our position. Then in June, First Environment commenced sampling. They did a very extensive round of sampling, and then in July they did more sampling, I believe even August, because what happens is you do your original sampling, you identify areas that are problematic, and then you do additional areas to try to see if you can shrink those the areas even further, because the cost to remediate the material, which is above 50 parts per million, is 4 or 5 times that of below. So it's very important you do it in stages, because you don't want to have to do more testing than you need to. So you sort of take it along in stages, and that was done. During that time also, again, the mediation did not slow down any process. First Environment, along with the borough engineers and their associates, began working on a bid spec. As the results came in, it changed the nature and scope of the bid spec and the manner in which we were approaching it. And it continued to be that type of process, because when you take 1,500 samples that are being analyzed, it doesn't all come in one day. It comes in this week, it comes in that week, and then you look at it again, you analyze it again. What is best for the town? What is the most cost-effective way to remediate this? Are we getting all the contamination? You know, for example, an issue arose with the ball field where there was no known contamination. We went and tested it, and it's fine in terms of contamination. There's other issues with it which will be addressed. So that's what was going on in May, June, July, along with preparing the specs, then redoing the specs, things of that nature. We also continue to work with the EPA and DEP, and we work with them continually. I received a call from the DEP this week, and they want me to come down for a meeting and to speak with them to see where we are in the process and what they can do to assist us. So as we continued that process into August, it was continual mediation sessions, continuing to prepare the bid, because we did not know if we were going to settle the case. We did not know if the mayor and council would deem it was worthy of settling the case, depending on the terms negotiated. And we wanted to make sure we didn't have any delay whatsoever, and the mayor and council made that very clear, and that's why the bid process proceeded as it did. Quite frankly, as we got into September, We knew the bids were coming in, and we were continuing to speak with Waterside. We were not satisfied with ultimately what terms they were willing to agree to, and they were not willing to meet our demands. Even if they met our demands, it was obviously subject to what the mayor and council ultimately approved, and also what the bid showed. One of the key things with the bid is, we didn't know whether these bids were gonna come back at $5 million or $15 million. And if it was at $15 million and having to bond additional funds and things of that nature, the mayor and council were gonna have to take that into consideration. Fortunately, due to all that work that was done, all those samples that were done that took a long time, but it takes 2-3 weeks to get the results, we were able to get this to what is a very reasonable number from where we started. When I got hired in this case, we were getting numbers of $10 to $15 million to clean up this property. And we brought it down to 5 because we did a lot more testing and through the bid process that was designed. So that's the history that basically brings us here today. We made our best efforts at mediation. Obviously, we knew we had a public bid process there, so if we didn't get the exact control and terms we wanted, we were not moving in that fashion, but we had to proceed in that manner by law, and we also had to see what ended up with the bid process and what type of numbers and whether it was something that could be done with the funds that the town has. So that's basically where we are today.
Ask for a motion to return to the regular order of business.
So moved. Point of order, before the second. Is that, I can do that? Were we going to move forward with the resolution before open session or vice versa?
Okay.
So wait for the public opportunity. I asked more specific questions.
So we have two resolutions, which I should read individually. Resolution 2014-231, termination of the waterside construction. Should I read that or? Whereas the Borough of Edgewater previously adopted resolution number 2014-063, which resolution set forth the procedural history of the award of a contract for waterside construction for the remediation and renovation to Veterans Field in accordance with the bid specification. And whereas the borough was presented with documentation that confirmed that during the remediation phase of the contract, waterside imported contaminated fill onto Veterans Field that contained elevated levels of PCBs. The importation of contaminated fill onto the field constituted a breach of contract by waterside. The Borough of Edgewater thereafter declared waterside in default of the contract. And whereas pursuant to the terms of the contract, the borough made a good faith effort to mediate the claims that arose as a result of the breach of contract with waterside. And whereas after several mediation sessions between the borough and waterside, which included the assistance of retired Superior Court Judge Daniel Mecca, the parties were unable to reach a mutually agreeable settlement of the issues in this matter. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Borough of Edgewater that the borough hereby declares that waterside, which was previously declared to be in default of their contract with the borough for the remediation of Veterans Field, has failed to cure such default, and therefore, in accordance with the contract, waterside is hereby terminated for the reasons previously set forth on the record. Be it further resolved that the borough shall pursue all legal remedies available to them for the full reimbursement of all damages and expenses against waterside and other responsible parties. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Waterside and Liberty Mutual Insurance Company, which company issued the performance and payout bond for this project. Do I have an introduction?
I'll introduce it.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Henwood. Councilman Doran.
Yes.
Councilman Monty.
Yes.
Councilman Vidal.
Yes.
Councilman Bartolome.
Yes.
Resolution 232.
Resolution
201.
2014-232. Whereas the Borough of Edgewater has received solicited bids for the rebid of the Veterans Field site remediation, and whereas consistent with the New Jersey local public contract law, The Borough of Edgewater did publicly solicit bids for said project under the title Veterans Field Site Remediation issued on August 29, 2014. And whereas in response to said solicitation, 8 bids were received. And whereas the lowest base bid of $2,024,100 was submitted by Enterprise Network Resolutions Contracting LLC, maintaining offices at 874 Piney Hollow Road, Winslow, New Jersey. Whereas Enterprise's price for alternate bid was $2,955,350, and whereas Enterprise's combined price for the base bid plus alternate bid was $4,979,450 was the lowest received, and whereas said bid was within the funds allocated for this project, and whereas the offices of the borough engineer and borough attorney have reviewed this bid and have deemed it responsive to the bid specification, and whereas Joseph Iacone, our CFO, certified that the funds have been appropriated for this purpose as authorized by Joe Iacone. Whereas the borough has advised the bond company, Liberty Mutual Insurance Company, of the borough's intention to award a contract to the lowest responsible bidders for the remediation of Veterans Field, and that the borough shall seek reimbursement and resolutions for the cost thereof from the bond company. And whereas the borough has further advised the contractor, Waterside Construction LLC, that they are in default of their contract with the borough by bringing contaminated material onto Veterans Field, and therefore the contract with Waterside Construction LLC is hereby terminated. And whereas the borough did receive 2 challenges to the award of bid from unsuccessful bidders, Applied Landscape Technologies and Kramer Environmental Incorporated, and the borough has determined that said challenges are without merit. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and council of the borough of Edgewater that contract for the above referenced project shall be awarded consistent with the bid specification and contractor's bid as follows. Enterprise Network Resolutions Contracting, the base bid, $2,024,100. Alternate base, $2,955,350 for a total of $4,979,450. I hereby certify that this resolution was adopted by the governing body. Do I have an introduction?
I'll introduce it.
Second.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Councilman Henry.
Before I go, I'd like to thank Tim Forston for all your work. It's been tough. You've gotten us to this point. The hard work now begins. I'd like to thank Tom Vanberg from First Environment. You guys have stepped up to the plate. You got us on course. And both you guys have been tough on us, and we thank you. You were tough on the original culprits. You were tough on us, and I appreciate that. I think we should send a letter to Judge Mecca and thank him on behalf of the council. He wasn't successful, but I don't know who would have been in that case. But he worked hard for us, and I think we should send a letter and thank him. And someone said, the other gentleman, I think he's here, said at the last meeting, what do we normally going to do differently? We've gotten a commitment from Mike Neglia, who is the principal of Neglia Engineering, to personally be involved from this point forward to conclusion, which doesn't happen. He's got a big firm. He's a pretty busy guy, but he's given his commitment. Department of Public Works, Tommy Clifton's going to be all over this. We're going to have weekly meetings that are going to happen every week, whether there's not an update or not. I'm sure 1 or 2 or no more than 1 or 2 council people will be at those meetings, including the mayor. And the tough work begins when we need to get going, guys, and I thank everybody for their help. Yes.
Councilman Doran.
Yes.
Councilman Monty.
Yes.
Councilman Vidal.
Yes.
And Councilman Bartolomeo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
This time I'd open the meeting to the public. Do we have a motion to return to regular order of business? Henwood?
Yes.
I'll second.
Councilman Henwood is here, Councilman Doran is present, Councilman Monty present, Councilman Vidal present, and Councilman Bartolomeo. Quorum, Mayor.
At this time, I'd like to open to the public. Anyone wish to be heard? Mary?
Of course. I like that. I know somebody from the dais. Mary Hogan, 606 Under Family. I have a couple of questions. How did you hire Waterside Construction if the remediation plan that Terms had been prepared had never been approved by the DEP or the EPA. I don't understand why you would have done that. I don't know how you could have gone out to the bid if the remediation plan had not been approved, because now we're hearing that remediation plan was never approved, that remediation plan was, I don't know how you went out for bids. And I don't know how you put specs out if that plan was never approved by the DEP. I mean, it's one thing to claim Terms, but if you didn't wait for that to be approved and hired Waterside without that, you know, the DEP and the EPA approving that, I don't know how you can blame Terms for that.
May you like me to clarify
I
that?
have to finish
Oh,
because
I'm
they're only
sorry.
gonna let me talk 5 minutes.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
Sorry.
Jim, I think we should make it clear that we'll allow the residents 5 minutes. We'll take down their answers, Tim, or maybe you can help us and the other professionals, and then we provide answers after we close the meeting.
Go ahead.
My other question was, when we started this project, there was approximately 300 cubic yards of contaminated, deep contaminated soil that had to be removed. And the bid came in at the low bid came in at about $7 million, which was Waterside. We're now cleaning up 30,000 cubic yards, 100% more, and the bid is only $5 million. I don't understand how that came to be, that you could have gone out to bid. And I think part of it is because you never waited for the remediation to be approved, because the DEP may have said, like you said to First Environment, do more testing, let's do this grid, the red and green and blue dots, et cetera, et cetera. I would just like to hope someone has looked in that the Enterprise Network Resolutions Contracting LLC has no affiliation with Waterside or with Mr. Dives, who we are suing. And I know that they have an affiliation with First Environment because on their website, First Environment is listed. So that's probably a good thing because the remediation person and the company that's cleaning it up, you know, have a relationship outside of what's being done here. I also would like to know if you would give me the, not now, when I finish, the Applied, I forget what the company is, Applied and Kramer's bids, what they came in at. You didn't put it in your resolution, you just said, you know, it's not applicable. So if you could give us the prices on those bids. I am concerned that it has taken us this long to get to this point, where it should have been in the very beginning when the studies were done. I'm presuming we're taking out the red and the blue dots. I would refer to that because that was what First Environment had prepared in terms of the bid that was done tonight. I wanted to know what happens with the $3 million that we paid Waterside Construction. Are we getting that back? And the inconvenience and additional things that had to be charged because of the fact that the field was not in use for 3 years. Is that in the lawsuit also? And I also wanted to ask Mr. Carson, since he's willing to answer questions, who was it that directed him to remove the RICO clause in the complaint? That the complaint was amended to remove the RICO clause. I was wondering under whose request that was made, since obviously he doesn't do it himself. His attorneys don't usually do that. They get a direction from their client to do that. Since that was one of the big flaws in the complaint in terms of being successful on that lawsuit. I also am concerned about the complaint and the pursuit of Waterside Construction and Mr. Dives, since two of the candidates that sit on the council right now, all their signs are on Mr. Dives' projects, and he also was at the headquarters on Sunday for when they had an event. I don't know what the event was. And I'm concerned that they will not be pursued because of this. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Seeing none, I'll close the open portion. Go ahead.
Valerie Bardina, 16 Hudson Terrace. Can you tell me the remediation that you just accepted the plan for, is that just for, because I read the bid specs and unfortunately I didn't bring that with me, and it is divided down to the first part is going to be removing the red, which is the most hazardous, and then in January, there were supposed to be plans submitted for the blue, which is the less hazardous. So is this $5 million bid just for the removal of the red, the most hazardous?
It's combined. Valerie, go ahead. You have your 5 minutes.
All right, it's combined.
They'll answer it when.
All right, so what I want to know is if it's just for the most hazardous, which is the blue on the maps, or is it going to be for the red, which is supposed to be removed now, and then the blue, which is supposed to begin in January as per your bid contracts? Secondly, Ms. Hogan referenced the lawsuit. And I see in the resolution you added that, this council added that they intend to litigate to the fullest. And I just want to know how it is that you can decide to litigate against somebody and yet be on friendly enough terms with him. And it's a serious federal lawsuit that he would be at your headquarters during whatever Saturday event was, and that he would allow you to have his signs up. Now, it may just be perception, but perception is very strong. If somebody was suing me and I had an adversary relationship with them, I would by no means support them in getting reelected by putting their signs up. So it is just a question. Thank you.
Tom?
Mayor Tom Cianci, 611 Cliff Avenue, Edgewater. I just wanted to comment. I believe that our grand opening Sunday was open to the entire public. And we had many guests, including a U.S. Congressman, our freeholder candidates. If anybody that wished to come could have. Now, I just find it a little amazing that how much attention is being paid to Edgewater Democratic headquarters. If the two parties, meaning the president and vice president of the independent coalition, Mary Hogan and Valerie Martinez, spent as much time when they were sitting on the council and weighing whether or not to accept Green Acres in lieu of their $4 million over expenditure at the marina. And that doesn't even include probably one of the most beneficial operations in the last 15 years occurred, meaning the ferry boat service. They voted 3 times against that. 3 times. If they would have deliberated and paid specific attention, as they do to you folks now, maybe we wouldn't be in this situation here today and have those young men and young ladies lose roughly 3 seasons of Little League baseball. Thank you.
Anyone else? Sir?
Raj Bhandari, Legend House. I wanted to know what is the policy for somebody who defaults with the town? What policy do we have? They defaulted under the contract, right?
You have your 5 minutes, and we'll try to answer your questions after your 5 minutes is up.
Okay, you can't answer now.
Try to answer after your 5 minutes is up, sir.
Okay. Secondly, in terms of, there are other properties that you're probably going to rezone and, again, we'll have the same issues with the builder. What my question, again, related to the first one is, if there is a policy that disallows people from getting further contracts, I think that would be helpful for future. So that's one.
Anyone else wish to be heard?